I'm Isobel Pollard. I am British, obviously, but I've been working for just under 3 years remotely from Italy.
Nice. And where specifically in Italy?
I'm in Modena, so it's about 20 minutes, 25 minutes from Bologna in that kind of northern swathe. They call it like the kind of powerhouse of Italian industry,
Nice.
which basically translates as that's where the jobs are, basically.
Gotcha.
So,
nice.
Yeah.
A pretty dreamy location as far as many people are concerned. It's a pretty good spot to end up.
Yeah. Well, it was a bit random. We knew we were moving to Italy, but the location was a bit random. It depended on my partner's job, basically. So we were in London. We met working together in a restaurant, kind of classic chef, manager, romance situation. Worked together for about 6 months. And then I got a job at the Times. So I was there, he was at the restaurant, and we ended up living together. Got a really touching job at the Times. I was there for 2.5 years, but this idea of Italy was kind of in the background. My partner's Italian, and he basically from the beginning was like, wouldn't it be great if we could go and live and work in Italy? And I was like, yeah, sounds good, but I can't drive, I can't speak Italian. I'm not sure how easy that's gonna be. But in the end, we started working towards it in little ways until it got to the point where I thought, actually, okay, it's sort of like now or never. You can keep thinking about it, or you can just go, you know what, next summer we're going to do it. So let's just work towards that goal.
What expectations did you have in terms of what you were expecting when you went to Italy?
Probably quite naive. In terms of work, probably quite naive. Sort of just thought, okay, it's going to be hard for like a month. And then of course I'll be able to find a job really easily. Of course, I'll be able to just like sort of swan in with my basic level of Italian, and everyone's going to be up for that, which from that side, it was certainly harder. But as far as like lifestyle, it definitely fulfills on what you'd expect.
Yeah, so did you experience like any culture shock when you moved?
Yeah, I mean, of course, Italy has that general, it's European, right? So how different could it be? I think that Italians have many, many idiosyncrasies. You know, some of the stereotypes are true, and then there's a sort of extra layer of these weird unwritten rules that you could never know until you move there. I mean, just how people are. If you're walking around, people will full on just stop you in the street to have a conversation about anything. Particularly if you've got a pet, but they'll just be like, oh, where's that dog from? Did he used to do running? And you'll be stuck there for a good 15 minutes at least. Anybody will do this.
That must be quite lovely coming from London, though, where everyone looks at their shoes and doesn't interact with anyone around them. It must be quite nice.
Yeah, and great for practicing small talk as well. Great to boost your Italian. What else? I mean, I'm 30 now. I moved over when I was turning 28, I believe. And in Italy, that's considered like super young, which was also quite a nice thing. Like in England, everyone's like, you know, by the time you hit 30, everyone's like, oh, I'm really worried. I haven't progressed far enough in my career. Over here, everyone's like, what, you're 28? Oh, you're young. You should be just working in a bar. You should just be, you know, like it's completely different culture.
Being able to work from somewhere where, you know, the weather's amazing and the scenery's beautiful and the wine is lovely is a big aspiration. So that's a thing that lots of people kind of aim for and have in their mind and as a goal. So I wonder, how has it lived up to your kind of expectations of that kind of vision you had in your mind?
I mean, first of all, I think as well, even if people don't want to work fully remote, I think most people yearn for a bit more flexibility in the way that they work, whether it's sort of part or full remote. But actually for me, it was almost like I don't want to say it was remote work by accident, that sounds wrong, but I moved to Italy thinking potentially I'd get a job in an office somewhere in the town we're in. My first job was with a wine marketing / branding agency.
How have you found like the kind of social aspect then? Because if your first job, because, you know, especially when you move to another country, like working in a place is quite often how one builds up their kind of social circle. What was that like as a remote worker?
I was very, very keen from the beginning not to make friends with international people, not from like any kind of snobbishness or whatever, but because I know people that have gone to other countries, particularly countries with challenging languages. Like my sister lived in Vietnam for a few years and just never ended up learning any level of Vietnamese. And I was determined that that wasn't going to be the case for me. And I was going to learn Italian, and I was going to be able to be in Italian society rather than being an expat living in that country. So from the beginning, you find out all these sort of international groups, English groups, women's groups, all this stuff. And I just avoided them like the plague, to the point where like I got invited to things and I'd be like, I can't go. Like, I'm not going to make friends with the English crew and just run with them. And that's it. I decided that beforehand. And that was a decision I followed through until I felt like, until I was like, that's stupid. After about a year, I was like, well, you know, we should really meet some more people. But yeah, all of my colleagues were Italian. My first job, obviously we were working remotely. They spoke some English, some of them better than others. So, and I made it my responsibility as well to always reply in Italian, even if the grammar was bad. You know, I didn't want them to feel sort of swanning in and forcing them to speak another language. From a social point of view, I mean, yeah, of course, the people you work with, it's true if you move to a new city in the UK, the people you work with are probably the first people that you end up making friends with. That was definitely the case, but they were all sort of scattered around, still within my region, still in Emilia-Romagna, but not close. But we did do a lot of events for quite a few clients, for quite a few of these wine clients. So these were opportunities for us as well. Like we'd all go a day before, stay at someone's house and just like do these crazy, like sitting on a massive kitchen table, everyone working together. So we did have those moments, but it wasn't like a day-to-day thing.
So would you recommend what you've done?
I think it's really valuable to do something. Like I always wanted to work in another country at some point in my life. I wasn't specifically Italy, but I knew that was something I wanted to experience. And I would definitely encourage anybody to do it and try it. You know, set yourself up as much as you can, but also you can never be prepared for the challenges of, obviously every place is different. So I think as well, you need to have the right attitude. You kind of have to be able to be quite flexible. If you're going over without a set job and you're planning to look for work, you have to be doubly flexible, and you need to have a level of confidence and sort of no expectations. Like if I hadn't found this type of work, I wouldn't have had any qualms to go and work in a restaurant. You know, I didn't have that sort of like, oh, this hasn't worked, so I'll go back to the UK. You know, I was ready and I had no kind of snobbishness about, you know what, if I have to go and serve coffees, I'll do it. And I think that helped as well.
Hey, that's it for this episode. We're going to be doing more of these in the future, where we talk to different employees and freelancers who work remotely all over the world. If you'd like to talk to us about where you work or how you work, then send us an email, wfh@lowerstreet.co. It'd be really great to talk to you on the show. And please remember to subscribe, because we have new content every weekday.